For our next industry presentation, we have Shri Jayant Singh, Sir, Vice Chairman, Inland Waterways Authority of India, Government of Assam, joining us virtually. He would be speaking on the role of inland water transport for the growth of Assam and Northeast.
Mr. Jayant Singh will be taking us through the role of inland water transport for the growth of Assam and the northeastern states. Inland water transport, which is in the making, the state government is betting on it towards various opportunities, economic growth to the state. Mr. Jayant Singh is heading the Inland Waterways Authority of India with the Government of India. Jayant sir, good morning.
Good morning, friends. My name is Jayant Singh, and I'm working currently as the Vice Chairman of Inland Waterways Authority of India. I'm essentially a railway officer. I'm on deputation with the Ministry of Shipping since 2021. And my expertise essentially in railways, lane multimodal transport. I set up a lot of inland container terminals in Rajasthan, Gujarat, and in Haryana in my earlier stint between 2002 and 2007. And prior to that, I had been working in railways in western part of the country. My essential interests lie in capacity building, government, logistics, strategic and security affairs. I have worked as faculty at the Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy of Administration, Mussoorie between 2011 and 16. And I also worked as a joint secretary in the National Security Council Secretariat under the Prime Minister's office with the National Security Advisor from 2016 until 2020. I am a Railway Traffic Service Officer of 1994 batch, and I've done Masters and graduation in history from St. Stephen's College, Delhi, and my second Masters in Governance and Public Management from the London School of Economics, and also a Master and MPhil in Security and Strategic Studies from National Defence College, Delhi. So that's my introduction, friends, in brief. Now I'll just start my presentation. So my focus is going to be on inland water transport. What is the scenario as far as the Northeast is concerned? What are our future prospects? And how it is going to be, we think it's going to be a game changer, not only for Assam and India Northeast, but for the entire region. Next, please. So before we start, let me give in a snapshot in one slide, a small introduction of what benefits that inland water transport. IWT stands for Inland Water Transport, the benefit it confers. So it is a very cost-effective mode. It's a very eco-friendly mode. And the biggest advantage of inland water transport as far as the Northeast is concerned, that we have a lot of natural waterways. You know, I did a lot of my initial service in Rajasthan and Gujarat, where water was always, it was a very, very scarce resource. When I look at the East, not only Assam, when I look at Bihar, I look at Jharkhand, I look at Bengal, I look at Bangladesh, I look at Myanmar. Here it's an untapped reservoir. It's a natural highway. So the advantages are self-evident in the slide because it encourages multimodal transportation. It's environment friendly. The carbon footprints are lower. It is very well suited to carry heavy and bulk cargo. I'll give you a small example. We are sending a lot of stuff for the Numaligarh refinery, the chimneys and precipitators and heavy equipment. And if I were to carry it by rail, it would be impossible to carry because of the bridges, because of so many impediments. But when you carry it on river, on a national waterway, it becomes so much more easier. Similarly, the cost of carriage as compared to rail and road is incredibly low. So it's there in the slide, and I'm sharing the presentation with the organizers, so I'm sure it will be circulated. So it's very, very self-explanatory. Next, please. So before I talk about the Inland Waterways Authority of India, that's not so relevant here, but what is important is that in India, we are doing only about 2 to 3% of total cargo movement by waterways. Ideally, given our potential, we should have achieved by now at least 5 to 6%. And if you see a country like China, for example, 14% of their logistics is being moved by inland waterways. In Bangladesh, it's 30%. In Europe, it's about 11 to 12%. Western Europe, that's I'm talking about Rhine and the Danube River system. So with that kind of vision in mind, when Inland Waterways of India was set up in '86, we were given the mandate for development, maintenance and utilization of waterways and the pertinent land for shipping and navigation. So we have set ourselves a target of 5% of the total traffic volume by 2030 and the capacity augmentation of this sector. Next. So this is what we do. We do infrastructure development. We define rules and regulations. We undertake technical studies. We advise and assist state governments, private sector, NGOs, and we do training and development. Next. So now this is an important slide, ladies and gentlemen, and the organizers and my fellow participants. You know, arguably, of all the different modes of logistics in this country, be it the road, the rail, the airways, the shipping, coastal shipping, IWT has been witnessing a very, very consistent growth, year-on-year growth. And over the last 2-3 years, the growth has been quite impressive. We've been doing at a compounded annual growth rate of 21%. And if you see, look at that pie chart on the right, which shows the commodity profile, that profile has also been widening. Just a few years back, our commodity profile was confined to stone aggregates, fly ash, a bit of iron ore from Goa and coal. But now we are diversifying. We have added container, we've added POL, we've added gas. So this is only growing. And the best news in this sector is that it's only in the last 4 or 5 years that we have really started looking at the sector seriously, both in terms of, you know, capital outlays, interest of the states, and the participation by the states and the multilateral agencies. Assam, of course, has taken the lead. Assam is one of the more progressive states when it comes to waterways, and we'll talk about that in greater detail as we move along. Next slide, please. So, friend, this is where inland waterways are as far as the northeastern region is concerned. We have about 20 waterways here on Brahmaputra, Bharat, Ai, Beki, Dehing, Dikho. The list is there. What is important is to understand that all of them, if we are able to develop, and this is our vision, I know it is very challenging. I'll be talking about the challenges also. It is very challenging, but say in the next about 10 to 15 years, once you are able to execute all these projects, you have an excellent waterways grid that will link Northeast not only to the larger Indo-Gangetic river systems or Bangladesh or to the ports in Bangladesh and in West Bengal, but also to the entire region, the larger, greater region comprising Myanmar, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal. You know, one of the reasons that the prosperity and the growth and development of Northeast has been, you know, not to the kind of to the extent of the potential this area has been the logistics. Now, a lot of inputs are going into things like railways, things like roadways, but it has to be a very multimodal effort. And if you see this grid here, if you are able to execute this, this is going to be a godsend. Next, please. Now, what is the existing infrastructure? This is just for the benefit of the audience. I'll just kind of, you know, broad brush the next few slides. If you see, the most important is the National Waterway 2. From Sadia to Dhubri, it's a 891-kilometer long stretch along Brahmaputra. And I don't see this stretch as some sort of a barrier. This is a natural, it's a God-given highway to the people of the Northeast, to the people of Assam. See it as that, an indestructible, unsinkable, all-weather highway. All we have to do is spend some money, spend some resources to make it navigable round the clock, round the year. So there are 3 essential components of developing waterways. One is to have a fairway. Fairway means we should be able to ply ships and boats on this waterway, on the river, round the year, number 1. Number 2, we have to have terminals. They can be small jetties, they can be large multimodal terminals like we have in Pandu in Guwahati, or the one is coming up in Jogighopa. We can even have small jetties, we can have small ro-ro jetties, as many jetties and terminals as possible. And third and the most critical component are the vessels. And vessels is something where the state government, the center will have to work together. They have to work in conjunction with private sector to enable private sector to procure more and more vessels so that we are able to carry cargo. So this is what we have as far as NW2 is concerned. We are developing fairway. We are looking at a depth of 2.5 meters. Now this is the beauty. If we get a depth of 2.5 meters only round the year, we can carry ships of tonnage of up to 1,500 to 2,000 tons round the year. So this is the biggest advantage that IWT has, because we know that Brahmaputra is the seasonal flow of the river varies, the current speed, the depth, the formation of shoals, siltation and all is rampant. So our target is modest. We are looking at a depth of only 2.5 to 2 meters, and that is good enough to give us the kind of navigability that we are seeking. We have at the moment two operational terminals on the Brahmaputra, one at Pandu in Guwahati, one at Dhubri on Indo-Bangladesh border. And we have 9 floating terminals which are listed, but we are coming up with a few more, and I'll be talking about them briefly. Next, please. So this is actually, I wanted to, before I came to the Skill Development Center and other thing, I wanted to show you, this is the kind of possibility. Now, if you see, this is a very, very small jetty, a floating terminal, but this floating terminal is good enough to handle the weight of a small, a very, very small truck and jeep, ideal for doing the ro-ro services across the river and carrying and handling small vessels. So this can be used for shipping, for fishing vessels, it can be used for small cargo vessels, and certainly the small ro-ro and ro-pack vessel, and can, and these are very cheap. They cost you hardly, the entire cost of including the, solar panels, lighting, etc., land, everything comes to less than 2 crores. So we can have assortment of these kind of floating terminals along Brahmaputra and along other rivers. Go back, please. Yeah. So as I said, when I was mentioning what exactly inland water transport sector entails, it entails fairway, it entails vessels, it entails terminals. But the most important resource is human resource. So one of the things that we have, one target we had assigned to ourselves was setting up of a skill development center in the northeast at Guwahati. Now this is very important, and this actually, it is, I really have to credit my minister, the former chief minister of Assam, Mr. Sarvanand Sonomal, for this. He was very adamant. He said, unless you actually impart skills or give employment, offer the opportunities to the people who are living in these areas, you cannot have the kind of growth that you're looking at. And with that vision in mind, we had, we started in 2022 developing the center, and now it is kind of come to a fruition, and we've had a couple of courses that have been run successfully. And these were the pilot training program based on the feedback and based upon the kind of, the response from the industry. We'll be doing the right iterations. Next, please. For least available depth between Sridarpur to Bhanga for 2 meters. Now, here our target is not 2.5 but 2 meters, because the kind of vessels that ply in this sector on river Bharat, which becomes Kushiara as it enters Bangladesh, is about 2 meters is more than adequate. Okay, next please. Yeah, next, yeah. So now this is an important slide, friend. This is the quantum of investment that has been allocated as far as the Northeast is concerned, especially in Assam. If you look at it, developing road connecting IWI Pandu port to NH27. Now, just a word about this. The next slide, Abhini. Ship repair facility at Pandu port, it will be inaugurated. The foundation stone, etc., would be laid. I think we have a planned function sometime in next month. Constructing a permanent inland water transport terminal at Jogi Ghopa, which will link with the multimodal transport, with the multimodal logistic park at Jogi Ghopa, which would be the largest multimodal facility of its kind anywhere in this region. It's an excellent connectivity. It has an excellent connectivity with rail, with road, with IWT. Lot of space for setting up not only number of warehouses, but also different value-added facilities such as small assembly points. And it will be a major boon not only for the bulk traffic, but also for what we call the, the digital marketing giants, Amazon and all. They can have permanent warehousing and all over there. Similarly, we are constructing 2 floating jetties at Bogibeel and at Guijan, and then doing a lot of allocation, a lot of work for dredging and fairway maintenance in this place, in the upper reaches of National Waterway 2, and of course a permanent terminal at Sonamura. And all this is very, very critical if we are to connect Assam and the other northeastern states with the rest of India through waterways, which is possible by having a good connectivity through Bangladesh. And this is what we are doing. I'll be talking about it towards the end of my presentation. Next, please. So this is the alternate road to Pandu. Now, Pandu terminal is important because it is a truly multimodal terminal. We have an excellent road connectivity. We have a rail connectivity. As I give this presentation, we have steel coming in from Vizag being unloaded, and it will be moving by road further. My vision is to get it to Guwahati and move it by waterways. God willing, this should happen by next year. We are, as I mentioned, we are constructing a permanent jetty at Jogi Hopa. Next. Ship repair facility at Pandu. Now, this is again very crucial. You know why? Because today, if any vessel, any inland transport vessel in Assam or anywhere in the northeast has to be serviced or repaired, it has to be sent all the way to Calcutta via Bangladesh, which is a very onerous exercise. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, it costs a lot of money. So we are Indian Waterways Authority of India and the Hooghly Cochin Shipyard Limited. Cochin Shipyard, as we all know, built our the largest aircraft carrier, the indigenous aircraft carrier Vikrant. So they are building at Guwahati, near Guwahati at Pandu, ship repair facility with a slipway dock and all. And God willing, we'll be able to see this thing operational by 2025. Next, please. Bogibeel is going to come up. So all are aware that how Dibrugarh was the nodal center for growth and development, I mean for commerce and trade and industry in Assam once upon a time. And with the kind of natural advantages that that area has, Upper Assam has, it's very important that we have a permanent facility at Bogibeel. So that's coming up. And all this will work very well only if we have availability of fairway. So we have allocated a sum of 233 crore for dredging on NW2 and W16, 31 and 57. And the work will start very soon this year. Next. And this, of course, I talked about these two. Next, please. Besides the pure IWT projects sponsored by the Inland Waterways Authority of India, there are a lot of centrally sanctioned schemes for Northeast for the development of waterways, and these are basically not only in Assam, but they're also in Manipur, Mizoram, and we are also in touch with the government of Nagaland should they have any requirement. So they are listed over here. The whole idea is basically to, create a very vibrant inland water transport ecosystem. Next. So I want to dwell a little bit about the dredging. As I had mentioned earlier, one of the biggest impediments in developing and the growth and development of waterways is the heavy siltation and the changing of course by the river. So this is to, mitigate this problem. What we are looking at is the mapping of river Brahmaputra to identify and create a navigable fairway from Bangladesh border right up to Nimati, and have introducing techniques like multi-beam system. This is like kind of a sonar, so sound navigation and ranging for swath mapping on the river. So this will enable not only night navigation, but also for in daytime when you have small boats and all that through an app, through a Android or an iPhone app, you will be able to have access to what is the safest route on a wide river. Brahmaputra could be, very wide, 5-10 kilometers wide. So we are looking at a fairway of only a channel of only 45 meters. Where exactly is that located? You will be able to access through your smartphone. And of course, detailed survey every fortnight to identify safe navigable route. The results of this survey again would be available through an app. Next, please. This is what we have tested, and it is working very well. Night navigation information, RIS, integration with radar, and AIS stand for Automatic Identification System. So basically all these technology, what they will essentially do is enable large vessels, small fishing vessels, ro-ro vessels to fly without any fear, without any safety hazards around the clock, around here, even during monsoons. So we are implementing them in a big way, and hopefully within a year and a half, the entire stretch from Sadia to Dhubri, we'll be able to offer these facilities to all our users. Next, please. And of course, these are the two portals. Vessel tracker application. Today, we have a major function at Dibrugarh when the world's longest river cruise starting from Varanasi, which started from Varanasi in January, is now will be terminating at Dibrugarh, and we've been able to track the movement of this vessel throughout its entire journey from Varanasi to via Bihar, Bengal, Bangladesh, and now in Assam, round the clock without any hassle. This application has worked very well. The link is given. You can just access everything. All our vessels on national waterways 1 and 2 can be tracked via this. Next. Now, this is the larger regional connectivity grid that I was talking about in the earlier part of my presentation. We call it, it was earlier called the EVAC-TG, the Eastern Waterway Transport Connectivity Grid. But we have renamed it the Regional Waterway Grid because East is as east as you can go. There is no limit. You know, the government is following the Act East policy. Our Honorable Prime Minister is very, very focused on the Northeast and developing the East. And as part of this, what we are trying to do essentially is to connect the Brahmaputra and the Ganga river system, the Bharat river system, by means of a waterway-based grid, so that movement of goods and the bulk goods, export good, import good, not only between India, within India, but also India, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and Nepal, all are woven in by means of inland water transport and coastal shipping. As I said, Bangladesh has a very vibrant ecosystem of inland water transport. 30% of their cargo is moving via waterways, but there's a lot of scope for technological upgradation. There's a lot of scope for improving the numbers of vessels, improving the quality of the vessels, okay, and setting up more and more terminals, having more and more multimodal terminal. You know, we are looking at a possibility, and even today as I speak, I'm talking to you, we have a terminal coming, we have a terminal at Sahibganj on the borders of Bengal and Jharkhand, Bihar and Bengal, Bihar and Jharkhand. That is a state-of-the-art facility by which export and import traffic of Nepal can be easily accessed via waterways. So the trucks carrying containers and cargo can come from Nepal, they can come up to Sahibganj, and that cargo can move via waterways right up to Haldia and to other ports. So this is the kind of vision we have whereby exports from Assam, imports to Assam and the Northeast can move via waterway. This is the vision of the RWG. Next slide, please. This is the schematic map. Now, the reason why we are so optimistic and gung-ho about this regional waterway grid is the graph that you see toward the right. IBP route is the Indo-Bangladesh protocol route. And unlike the problem that is there between Indo-Bangladesh transport in rail and road, waterway transport is very, very seamless. So we have a protocol on inland water trade and transport, which allows for seamless movement of vessels. As you can see today in Dhubri, for example, it is the fastest growing inland water port in India, not only in India, but in the entire South Asian region. Seamless movement. Dhubri to Chilimari and now extending to Sirajganj, Ashuganj, and God willing up to Dhaka very soon. So the growth has been quite phenomenal. In 1 year only, we have achieved about more than 25% growth. And a lot of it is being coordinated between, not only by India and Bangladesh government with the assistance of World Bank. We also have government of Assam and the Inland Water Transport Directorate of Assam, which is a very, very active partner. Assam has been doing a great work in setting up terminals and setting up the whole ecosystem for vessel procurement, vessel maintenance and operation. So this is the kind of prospect that this region has. Now just imagine if I have to transport some goods in all to Tripura. Why should I bring it via circuitous railway route? I'll bring it to Calcutta. From there I can move it via Sonamura, via Indo-Bangladesh route. Similarly, exports from Assam, imports to Assam can easily move via waterway. So this is the kind of vision that we have. We already have a concept plan and it is in pipeline. So once it is approved, we'll definitely get working on this in 3 to 4 years. From 5 years from now, I see the whole landscape changing. Next. So this is what it is about connectivity. Back. Now, a couple of things, it all sounds very good, but there are a lot of challenges. I wanted to talk about the challenges in the last 1 minute. Do I have a couple of minutes? Yeah, okay, thank you. There are 2 or 3 challenges. The biggest challenge for waterways is the geography. The rivers in our subcontinent, in the Indian subcontinent, are shallow and wide. Whereas for navigation, you require narrow and deep rivers, which means that we need to do a lot of dredging, lot of siltation. I mean, there's a lot of siltation, so we need to do a lot of dredging, we need to do a lot of fairway maintenance, which costs money. So that is the biggest challenge. The second biggest challenge is that today, unfortunately, be it the policymakers like civil servants, the politicians, everybody, we want very quick results. कि भाई आज हमने announce किया project, the result should come out 5 months ago. Now, Waterways does not develop like this. A country like China with all its state capacity and it's a totalitarian state, it took them 30 to 40 years to reach where they are today. They started in 1978. It took them 2010 when they reach this kind of level. We have started looking at waterways seriously as a modern means of transport only in the last 5 to 6 years, 5 to 7 years. In 2014, when this government came, they started looking at. Mr. Gadkari was very keen, and subsequently the minister and the present minister, of course, thankfully, he is from Assam, so he understands the prospects and the potential. So the government has to stay invested. That is the second challenge. And the third challenge is technology. The problem is that technology costs money, and if we introduce new technology, it raises the overall costing. So who will bear that cost? If I ask the private sector to bear that cost, they would not be very keen because profits don't come instantly. They take time in coming. It is much cheaper. Suppose I'm a private operator. It is much cheaper for me to buy 20, 40 feet trailers than to buy a small inland transport vessel. So we have to come up with smart policies to encourage investment. So the role of government is very critical, and it is very important. Whosoever is the chief minister, whosoever is the prime minister or the shipping minister, whatever government it is, it should stay invested, right? So these are the couple of challenges that I wanted to, outline and red flag before I ended my presentation. So friends, thank you very much for your time and attention, and I'll be very happy to take any questions.
Thank you. So on behalf of the Government of Assam to Shri Jayant Singh, Vice Chairman of IWAI, I would like to give you our heartfelt thanks for giving a really outstanding presentation. I would request you also to share the presentation with us so that we understand, because you made the presentation with a great degree of foresight and have really laid down what the issues are for a long term and a short term, both long term and short term policies of the government. I would request you just a couple of things before we close. One is that from what you have presented, there is tremendous scope for employment, whether it is the ports or whether it is just the carriers or whether it is associated, landing facilities, and of course the hinterland development that happens along with what you have suggested. And we have here a number of students who would probably be engaged in making this happen, which will, we believe that, what you presented is the core to the development of the Northeast. Actually, if Northeast were to shine, then your sector has to do well, or rather it has to be the, it has to be the crown in the jewel, right? So I would request you to mail to us or send a small report on what kind of skilling opportunities are there. How do you foresee as to what kind of skilled manpower you'll require to sustain this vision of yours? Like in terms of maybe ITI students, maybe, what kind of ITI students will be required? You said that I need to build a small port. What kind of, manpower is required for each of these things? I would like you to list down, like short term, medium term, this is the kind of manpower that will be required. We need to get so much in order to make this sustainable. And also some of the things like, say, dredging, you said. Dredging is a very major activity, but whether it can be self-sustainable or not, if in the sense that can it be useful for agriculture, whatever the dredge materials, is it a self-sustainable business proposition? So please work out in terms of employment, business opportunities, and if you can give us a 2-page document, it will be very, very useful to me and to the government, because we're looking for employment, we're looking for business opportunities. So just a paper on that would be great for us.
I'll certainly share all that. The employment opportunities lie in all the activities. Now let me take them up one by one. To start with, for ITI graduates who undergo some sort of skilling in inland water transport, the skills lie in the area of operations of vessels. So navigation, you are the master or you are the, the helmsman or the boat. or the whatever vessels are being applying. It's like merchant navy kind of thing, at a smaller scale, at a local scale, at a smaller scale. So a lot of opportunities there. And then the beauty of these kind of skills that you gain here in the Skill Development Center, and we have a National Indian Navigation Institute at Patna, and Nini in Patna, we'll be opening a satellite terminal here of this thing in the northeast also. So it is like a minor, it's like merchant navy. So you learn the navigation operation side, there'll be a marketing side, and both with a lot of IT application. That is one area. The second area would definitely be the management of small terminals. Now today, suppose now I build a big port, say a big terminal at Bogibeel. Now IWAI does not have a mandate of commercial operation. I'm just a infrastructure provider. So who will man those terminals? So somebody from Inland Water Transport Department in Assam, they will have to look at a private partner or somebody to manage that terminal. When you manage a multimodal terminal, you have to plan arrival of trucks, unloading of cargo, loading of cargo, the documentation that goes on with it, overall administration on that place. A small terminal, let me give you a small example. When I set up my first inland container terminal in Jaipur in 2002, I used to sit in a small portable cabin, and we had a fleet of 10 trailers and 7 or 8 trays. So by the time I left in 5 years, we were offering direct and indirect employment to over 3,000 families, trailers, loaders, crane operators, track maintainers, rake maintainers, security. I mean, look at the kind of, economic spin-off that happens. The other area of, employment is going to be in mechanical engineering, because when you have a fleet of IWT vessels, you will need people to do day-to-day maintenance of these. Fueling facilities, bunkering facilities, these will come up. So it's the whole, when you talk about the logistics ecosystem, this is the kind of ecosystem we talk about. Yeah. So it is a lot of self-spinning. Yeah. It is a lot of self-generation of employment. And the second part of your question about dredging, this is another beautiful thing. The sand that is dredged out is the commodity, is the property of the state government, the mineral department of the state government. So if the government, if the state government is proactive, like they are in several other, like in Kerala, for example, or in Bengal, the dredged sand, they can enter into the contract with our contractors and just take away. Today, the building sand, which is dredged from river beds and all, that is a very scarce commodity. There are a lot of illegal sand mining going on. So if your dredged sand is of that quality, which can be used for construction, I mean, you see the kind of profit that will come in. Certainly.
So thank you very much, and we look forward to your paper, and I hope that your success will employment opportunities. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.